and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I haven't posted in ages. I'm so sorry. I have a fairly good excuse because I went travelling around Southeast Asia and have moved all the way from London to Australia. I'm now based in Brisbane, having such a great time and finally getting settled, building up my book collection over here. So I want to start doing my YouTube again, start sharing my reading journey with you, and yeah, let's get started. So the first video I wanted to do this year was my 25 books I want to read in 2025. Let's go. So the first book on my 25 books for 2025 is When the Moon Hatched. It's a book all about dragons, fantasy novel. I think it's romancy. I've just heard so many good things. My friend has just read it and she said it's amazing. We have very similar taste, so I'm convinced. It's also on Kindle Unlimited, one for the Kindle girlies, and a book's always better when it's free. Okay, so the next one is actually 4 books. But I'm umbrellaing them all together because I need to read them all this year. And that is the last 4 books in the Throne of Glass series. I've been reading the Throne of Glass series for so long. I love Sarah J Maas. I love ACOTAR. I don't know why it's taken me so long to get through these books because I have really enjoyed Throne of Glass when I've been reading them. But now we're settled here in Australia. I think I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm going to buy the whole box set and just going to read those last 4 books and live my best life. Although apparently there's a lot of tears in Kingdom of Ash, so maybe not live my best life, but I'll be having a great time whilst crying. So next up, we have Yellowface. Why haven't I read this yet? I love R.F. Kuang's writing. She is so good. She's so talented. She is a historian who just writes the most beautiful and poetic novels. Babel and the Poppy War series are like some of my favourite books. And yeah, I've not read this book yet and it's been out for ages. And I've been sent the most beautiful edition by HarperCollins. So yeah, I just need to get on with it and read this book. This book is like on my early to read 2025 list. Like first quarter, I want to get this book done because also I just know I'm going to love it. I've heard so many good things. Next up we have The Right Move by Liz Tomford. This book is the second book in a Windy City series. I really enjoyed the first book. It was like quite a nice romance. I can't even remember what sport it was. Anyway, it's a sports romance and it's just like cutesy but deals with some big issues as well. And yeah, apparently the series gets better and better as it goes on, so maybe a 5-star read? Who knows? I'm excited. Okay guys, so the next one is one we are all excited for. And if you're not, what are you doing? This book is Onyx Storm. It's the 3rd book in the, I can never say it, I think it's Empyrean series. Yeah, I'm just so excited. I know some people didn't love Iron Flame as much as Fourth Wing. I think it was definitely a slower paced book, but the ending guys, I've been on the edge of my seat for the past few months wanting to know what's happened. Finally, we're going to find out and I can't wait. I'm going to be devouring that book on January 21st. Okay, so a very different style of book now. I've got Northanger Abbey, which I really want to read. It's a Jane Austen book. I'm trying to read 6 classics this year. I feel like that's quite an achievable amount. That's one every 2 months. Yeah, I don't know, that's quite ambitious for me because I feel like when I do read a classic, I do read it a lot slower. I annotate it. I'm hoping one every 2 months is doable. And this one is one I want to read because I love Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility. Jane Austen's writing is just wonderful. So hopefully I like this one just as much. Yeah, I'm going to read Northanger Abbey this year. It's sat on my TBR in the UK, like my physical TBR. I've had the physical copy of this book. I don't have it now because I'm in Australia. But in the UK, I've had it for 2 years. I haven't read it yet. So another classic I want to read this year is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. This one sort of follows a little boy Pip, who's like a blacksmith's son, and then he somehow enters high society in London, and you just sort of see how his life changes. Yeah, I just think that sounds really cool. I'm excited to see what that book's all about. It's so famous, it's so well known. I have read a little bit of Dickens before. I think I've only read Oliver Twist though, so this will be quite different, I think. Yeah, excited to find out what it's all about. So another 2 books I want to read this year, which again I'm like umbrellaing together, is Wildfire and Daydream. These are the 2nd and 3rd books in the Maple Hills series. I read Icebreaker, I think back in 2023, yeah, quite a while ago. But I want to read these 2 spicy romances this year. I wasn't as fussed about reading Wildfire. I hadn't like seen that many great things. But everyone sort of said Daydream's really good, so now I feel like I have to continue with the series. Also in 2025, I'm really focusing on continuing with series and not like starting new ones, even though I'm still going to start a lot of new ones as this list will show you. But I'm going to be good and I'm going to finish the series I've already started. So the next book I have completely contradicts what I just said because it's a new series that I'm going to start, but it's on Kindle Unlimited, so kind of doesn't count. I'll probably buy the physical copies too, so it kind of does. But it's Serpent of Wings and Night. I think that's what it's called. Is that what it's called? The Serpent of Wings and Night, that is what it's called. And this book is all about a mortal daughter of a vampire who lives in like a vampire world, and he's the vampire king, and she basically has to prove herself as his heir by going through some sort of tournament. And I think it's like enemies to lovers, and she has to like make some sort of alliance with like her arch enemy or something. I don't know because I've not read it, but it sounds quite cool, and I haven't read a vampire book in so long, so let's find out what that one's about. Stay tuned to see what I think. So the next book we have is another 2025 release, and it is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This is quite a different book for Ali Hazelwood. Like, I love her writing, so of course I'm going to be reading this one. But it's actually a sports romance. It's about two swimmers, I believe, and they both swim at like elite college level, I think. I remember reading the plot ages ago. They have to make some sort of alliance or some sort of agreement. I think there's a bit of like forced proximity there. Well, no spoilers, but it's Ali Hazelwood. I think we can probably safely assume that they might fall in love. I just love the way Ali Hazelwood writes romance. It's so like fun. So I can't wait to read that one. Okay, so the next book I have, I'm being good, I'm carrying on with my series that I'm reading, is Powerless. No, it's not. I've read that. It's Powerful, the novella from the Powerless series. I read Powerless in 2024. I did really enjoy it. It was a good book. I didn't love it as much as everyone else did. I feel like this was a lot of people's like favourite book. But I'm excited to see where the story goes, and I definitely want to continue with the series and then read Reckless if I like the novella. Yeah, I'm excited to see where that one goes. The Powerless book reminded me very much of the Hunger Games, but like a romantic vibe. So I did really enjoy it. So I think it's got more potential, and I hope that that is built upon in the next few books. Speaking of the Hunger Games, we have a very exciting release in March 2025. Sunrise on the Reaping comes out. We are finding out about Haymitch's story. Haymitch is like I love Haymitch. He's my second favourite Hunger Games character. Effie Trinket is my favourite. But like the series for me is very revolved around those two. I love when those two are spoken about in the books. I love when they're in the movies. And I can't wait to find out more about Haymitch and his Hunger Games and see what he was like when he was younger, because he's such an interesting, complex character in the later books. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he was like. Suzanne Collins, thank you for doing another Hunger Games book. It's what we all needed. So next we have another series that I'm continuing, the final book in the Rebel Blue series, Wild and Wrangled. I'm very excited. I'm quite sad that the series is going to be over because I loved the first and I loved the third book. The second book didn't really hit for me. I didn't really like it that much because I didn't fancy the love interest. I found him quite cringe, but I get why other people did love it. And I'm just hoping the fourth book is like the perfect ending to this series. It's just such a cutesy romance cowboy vibe. It's actually the only cowboy romance series I've read, so I think I'm going to read this one and then maybe move on to some Elsie Silver. I know she's quite popular with a lot of people. I have really high hopes for this fourth book in the series. The last one was so good. It's so cutesy. I'm just excited. Hopefully it's a good one. Definitely one of my 2025 TBR. Okay, so this next book is my most anticipated read of 2025. Number 14, I'm so excited for you. Taylor Jenkins Reid is releasing a new book called Atmosphere. And I just love Taylor Jenkins Reid. Her whole Hollywood series is just incredible. She just writes women's fiction so well. She builds up these amazing, very likeable, but kind of morally grey characters and just immerses you in this world that you had no interest in. Like, I had no interest in tennis. I had no interest in 70s rock. But yet in Carrie Sedgwick's Back, Daisy Jones and the Six, I was like obsessed with these things. It was just amazing. And her new book, Atmosphere, is all about space, which I actually do find quite an interesting topic. I'm very excited to see how Taylor Jenkins Reid just takes me into this world and builds up a strong character. I just can't wait. I saw Taylor Jenkins Reid in London last year being interviewed, and even the way she talks about her characters, like, there's just so much. There's like the layers in her books. You can read them like on a very surface level and just enjoy the story. It's that, but there's also just layers and layers of depth, and that's why she takes so long to release her books, because you know just how much research she puts into them. How she has such expertise on so many topics is just mind-blowing. But 3rd of June, I am counting down the days. Atmosphere, Taylor Jenkins Reid, I am ready. Another 2025 release that I'm excited for and that I've put on my 25 books for 2025 is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. It's an Emily Henry book. Obviously, I'm going to read it when it comes out. So my understanding of this book is that it's about two writers that are competing against each other, and then the romance that sort of blossoms from that. It's a bit of an enemies to lovers vibe, and I'm very excited just to see where Emily Henry goes with this. I love the fact that she writes about people that just love books, love reading, love writing. I think that makes her characters really easy to connect to, and it's just like, I don't know, there's always just that like element of her talking about reading and writing in such a lovely way and books in such a lovely way that as a reader you just feel seen and feel heard. And yeah, thank you, Emily Henry. Okay, so next up we have another classic, because like I said, I'm trying to read 6 classics this year, so I've put 3 on my 25 for 2025, and this one is another Jane Austen book, Persuasion. I think I might have to read this one before Northanger Abbey. Actually, I think they might like link in that way, that I need to read this one first. But my understanding of this book, and I might be completely wrong, I don't know if I'm right, but my understanding of this book is that it's about a girl that rejects a marriage proposal from a man because her family recommend her to do that, and that makes her really unhappy, and somehow this like love interest comes back into her life and it starts bringing her joy again, and we just see where that goes. And I think that sounds quite an interesting plot, and again, it's just Jane Austen, and we love a Jane Austen bit of writing, so hopefully that'll make it onto my it's going to definitely make it onto my shelf this year, and I'm going to read it. Let's get back to it. Next up we have another series, and I'm starting another series, but this series has been like on my radar for so long. It's The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle Jensen, I believe her name is. I've just seen it popping up more and more and more this past year, and I've got it on my Kindle ready, and I'm just going to read it because I can't wait. I think it's like political romantasy, enemies to lovers, strong female lead, the debate between right and wrong. It's just all the things I love in a fantasy novel. When I googled the tropes, that's what came up, and I was just like, sold, I need to read that book. Okay, so next up we have a historical fiction novel. It's by Christian Hannah. No one writes historical fiction like Christian Hannah. She is my inspiration, and this book is her latest one, The Women. I love Christian Hannah's writing, and this story is all about an army nurse in the Vietnamese-American War. I just love reading about women's contributions to important historical events. I think it's something that we don't see explored enough in literature. It's something we're definitely seeing more and more and more. I loved Nightingale by Christian Hannah, which focused on women's stories in World War II, particularly 2 women in particular. I loved Kate Nunn's The Last Reunion, which is about women in World War II on the front line, the only women that were on the front line. So I just feel like this one is definitely a bit of me, just finding out about women and their lives and contributions to the war. Okay, so the next book on my 25 for 2025 is Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. It's a new release coming out in August this year. It's about 2 PhD students that have studied really hard to get under this like elite professor of magic. And then as soon as they start working under him, this professor then gets dragged into hell, and they basically have to go to hell to get him back. This plot wouldn't like necessarily pull me in if anyone had written it, but because R.F. Kuang and her like ability to write fantasy and have the element of right and wrong in her stories, it's just so good. I'm sold. I want to read it. And I was talking to some booksellers here in Brisbane, and they were really keen, and they were like so excited, and that made me feel really excited. August 2025, that one's out, and I can't wait. Next up we have Hannah Bonham Young. I've not read any of her writing, but this year I'm going to start, and I'm going to read Out on a Limb, which is a romance that everyone on Bookstagram has said has had them like kicking their feet, giggling out loud, and I can't wait to find out what this one is about. I actually have no idea of the plot. It's just one of those books I keep just seeing and being like, loved it, this book's amazing. Her ability to like write characters and like feel the romance is just so good. So I'm like, sold. Okay, so next up, book 21. Book 21 is Days at the Murakami Bookshop. This is a translated fiction, and it's set in Japan, which is the next country I want to visit. So I feel like that's good inspiration for that. But also, it's a book about a bookshop. I love reading about books and bookshops. I just think, even like this book, when I've seen people talk about it, it's like very much focusing on the healing power of reading. It's just like a love letter to reading, apparently, and I absolutely loved. What's the book I read? I read this book. Yeah, I read this one, Welcome to the Hyam-Dong Bookshop, and this was just like my heart. The way this book talked about books and reading, just loved it. So I've got quite high expectations for the Days at Murakami Bookshop, because this was a 5-star read to me. I devoured it in one sitting. It wasn't like a long flight, but still, I can't wait for that one. Next up, I realise I have not put one non-fiction book on this list so far, and I'm trying to read 12 non-fiction books this year, one each month. I used to like read more non-fiction years and years ago than I did fiction, so this is quite wild. Now I'm aiming to read 12 non-fiction books this year, and I have not come up with one on this list yet. So this is where that changes. One non-fiction book I'm definitely going to read this year is Women Living Deliciously by Florence Given. Her first book, Women Don't Know You Pretty, was such like a great book for bringing like feminist theory and making it so digestible, so easy to understand, like so much more accessible to everyone. And oh, her illustrations. I used to have some of her illustrations up in my London flat. You might have seen in my like Bookstagram pictures. They're just beautiful, and she puts them all throughout her books. And I just want this book just to make it look pretty in my house, and to read it, and for the great content. I think it also focuses a lot on. I listened to Florence be interviewed by Fern Cotter on Happy Place. So if you're umming and ahhing about this book, listen to that interview. But she like talks very much about how moving past cringe and the idea that like in order to live our best life, we have to like be like cringe worthy, like, and it's so true. I feel cringe like filming this video now. Some people say this is cringe, and here I am doing it. So yeah, I'm excited to fully embrace living deliciously and reading this book. Okay, so in the spirit of finishing series, the next book I'm going to read is June Messiah. This is the second book in the world of June, which I don't even know how many books there are. It seems like there's hundreds. I'm gonna definitely watch the movie again. The movies are so good. I don't know why I can't remember what happened in them, because I just remember really, really enjoying them and enjoying the first book. The book's so confusing. I literally was like the slowest book I read in 2024. But I'm gonna read the next one. I'm gonna put myself to work, give my brain some proper thinking time and read that book. And I'm gonna watch the movies first, and I'll be ready and I'll remember, and we can talk about what it's about then. I can tell you it's like a sci-fi political intergalactic story, but other than that. Number 24 is another book that I just don't know why I haven't read. It's Stephanie Garber's A Curse for True Love, the third and final book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I tell a lie. I know why I haven't read this book. It's just come to me. It's because I really enjoyed the first two books, and I don't think I want this series to end, so I think I keep putting off reading it. I loved Caraval. I was super sad when Caraval ended, though we did get a little Christmas bonus of Spectacular, which was okay. It wasn't as good as the first three books, but it was a nice little bonus Christmassy book. Yeah, I need to finish this book this year. It's been so long since I read the other two. I know this is like some people's like favourite series of all time. I also have been avoiding reading any reviews or seeing any spoilers for this book for so long, and even like I've been avoiding people's opinions on this book. Like if I'm watching someone's booktube video and they talk about this series, I like skip it because I don't want to know their thoughts on it, because I'm like, I want to have my own thoughts on this ending of this world. So I just need to read this book so I can not worry about that anymore either. 2025 is going to be the year. A Curse for True Love. I'm going to read it. It's a book I have a physical copy of in the UK, but I don't have it here. Have to buy it again. As I've just like said, two series I'm going to carry on with and finish, I feel like I can have one more that I'm going to start. And this is a series I've seen popping up everywhere. Like I hadn't really heard of it, and now I'm just seeing it like all over BookTube, all over Bookstagram, and that is A Spark of Everflame. It's like a political romantasy, enemies to lovers, slow burn. Amazing. All of that just sounds so good. I think it's set in a very like different world to like fantasy I normally read as well. I think it's sort of a world ruled by gods, and the gods have children, which are like the ambassadors who like rule the planet, like on the earth. Like the gods aren't existent on the earth. And I don't know because I've not read it, so I'm not explaining this very well. There's this like mortal girl, and her mum goes missing, and she has to try and find her. And then she ends up finding about all the stuff that she shouldn't know, and like the prince is watching her every move, but then like the prince like becomes quite intertwined with her life. And I don't know, that's bits I've picked up, and I've just been like, oh, that sounds good. So I'm going to read that one this year. That's 25 books. That's my 25 books for 2025. There's still so many books I want to read on top of those as well. I realise that the list is also quite fantasy heavy, and I know that the reason I've picked so much fantasy, especially like starting new series, is because I'm in a fantasy mood at the minute. Like all I want to read is fantasy, and so that list is very reflective of that. So hopefully I haven't put too much on there and it's going to be a bit too ambitious, and I'll be in like summer or like on the beach and be like, no, I'm not in the mood for that anymore. But we will see. Like and subscribe if you want to see more on these books, more videos like this, and more about what I actually think of these books when I read them. If you've got any books that I've missed out, or like 2025 releases I need to be making sure I don't miss out on, comment them below. Yeah, I'm hoping to be putting out so much more content now that we're settled and here in Australia. Check me out on Instagram if you want to see a little bit more. Bye!